interview, man. Ze wil op de cam, bro. Geef hem een interview, man.
You speak English?
Interview, man.
The Netherlands is one of the few countries on Earth where beauty is built on a permanent fight against water. Behind glowing canals, tulip fields, brick houses, and unreal villages, there is a nation that had to engineer survival and turn everyday life into rules, bikes, housing pressure, and quiet discipline. How can a place look this peaceful while depending on dikes, pumps, and constant control? And why does the Dutch dream become so expensive once you try to live inside it? Stay with this journey, because we are not only looking at postcard beauty, we are going inside the hidden price behind the Netherlands. If you enjoy deep country stories like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a supportive comment for the Netherlands. It helps YouTube recommend this video to more people, and it means you will see our future country videos more often. To understand the Netherlands, you have to start with a strange idea. This country was never only found on a map. It was partly negotiated with water. The Dutch landscape did not simply sit there, waiting for cities, farms, roads, and ports. It had to be drained, defended, measured, rebuilt, and watched. That is why the old Dutch towns feel so ordered. The canals are not decorative lines for tourists. The brick houses leaning over the water are not just charming backdrops. They belong to a culture that learned early that space is precious, water is dangerous, and survival depends on cooperation. In Amsterdam, the famous canal ring still carries that old logic. It looks romantic today, especially at blue hour, when the bridges glow and bicycles move like shadows along the water. But its deeper story is a story of planning, trade, and control. The city expanded in rings because land had to be organized with almost mathematical care. Warehouses stood beside canals because goods moved through the city like blood through veins. The Netherlands became powerful not by having endless territory, but by using a small territory with extreme intelligence. During the Dutch Golden Age, ships left these ports for every ocean, and money, art, maps, spices, risk, and ambition all passed through the same narrow streets. That past gave the Netherlands an elegance that still feels visible in the windows, gables, museums, and quiet courtyards. But it also created a hard national habit. Nothing is free, space must work, and beauty usually has a function behind it. You see it in the windmills at Kinderdijk, where 19 mills stand across the flat water like old guardians. They are beautiful, but they were not built to be beautiful. They were part of a water management system created because fields, homes, and villages depended on keeping water at the right level. You see it at Zaanse Schans, where green wooden houses and historic mills can look almost unreal, as if a painting has opened and let people walk inside. Yet that place also tells the story of early industry: sawmills, oil mills, craft, labor, smoke, and profit. The Dutch postcard has muscle underneath it. Even the tulip, the softest symbol of the country, carries a sharper history. Tulips turned into status, trade, obsession, and speculation. The flower fields near Lisse and the staged perfection of Keukenhof show a country that can turn nature into theater, but also into business. This is one reason the Netherlands feels different from many beautiful countries. It does not only preserve its past, it organizes it, brands it, manages it, and sells it with clean precision. The charm is real. The old towns are real. The canals, bridges, mills, courtyards, and church towers are real. But behind that charm stands a society that has spent centuries learning how to turn danger into design. The Dutch economy is one of the clearest examples of how a small country can behave like a global machine. On the map, the Netherlands looks modest. In reality, it is a transport hub, a food exporter, a financial center, a technology corridor, a port economy, and a logistics engine packed into a delta. Rotterdam is the easiest place to feel this. The city does not have the soft old face of Amsterdam. It feels sharper, wider, more industrial, almost impatient. After the destruction of the Second World War, Rotterdam did not rebuild itself as a museum of what it had lost. It became modern, glassy, experimental, and connected to one of the most important ports in Europe. Cranes, containers, bridges, ships, warehouses, and highway ramps tell you that the Netherlands is not only a land of windmills, it is a country that moves things. Food, fuel, flowers, chemicals, machines, data, people, money. Everything seems to pass through. Schiphol Airport adds another layer to that same story. For many travelers, the Netherlands begins as a transfer point, a polished gateway where Europe feels close and organized. That gateway identity brings wealth, jobs, and international importance. But it also brings pressure, noise, emissions, crowded infrastructure, political arguments, and the feeling that the country is constantly balancing profit against quality of life. Agriculture shows the Dutch paradox even more strongly. The Netherlands is famous for tulips and cheese, but behind those gentle symbols sits a highly technical agricultural sector. Greenhouses glow in the night. Farms rely on science, logistics, export networks, and strict efficiency. The country has managed to produce extraordinary value from limited land, but limited land is exactly the problem. Farmers, cities, nature, housing, roads, climate policy, and water safety all compete for the same tight space. That is why economic success in the Netherlands can feel both impressive and exhausting. The country works because many systems work at once. Trains, ports, bike lanes, markets, schools, hospitals, offices, and government services are expected to function with a certain reliability. But that reliability is not magic. It costs money. It requires taxes, rules, permits, meetings, inspections, and a constant willingness to accept limits. For visitors, this can feel like pure comfort. Clean stations, safe streets, easy card payments, English-speaking service, reliable connections, clear signs, and cities that are easy to navigate. For residents, the same system can feel like a calendar full of appointments, forms, obligations, waiting lists, high prices, and very little room for improvisation. The Dutch economy gives a high standard of life, but it rarely gives the feeling of spacious ease. You earn well, but you pay well. You live in a rich country, but you compete for space. You move through beautiful cities, but every square meter has a price. This is the hidden cost of the Dutch miracle. The country is efficient because it has to be, and sometimes that efficiency reaches straight into daily life. This is why Dutch prosperity can feel unusually visible. It is not only in luxury districts or corporate towers. It is in the everyday infrastructure. The clean train platform, the protected bike route, the flood barrier you barely notice, the supermarket supply chain that seems boring because it works. But prosperity here is not relaxed. It is dense, scheduled, optimized, and constantly debated. The same country that sells an image of calm canals also argues intensely over airports, farms, emissions, migration, housing, and whether there is still enough room for the next generation. The Netherlands can look unbelievably soft on camera. A canal in winter, a misty village lane, a rainy cobblestone street, a tulip field under low spring light, a beach with pale dunes and silver clouds. The weather gives the country its atmosphere. It creates that wet shine on brick walls, the reflection of amber windows in black canal water, the feeling that every street has been washed and polished by the sky. But Dutch weather is also one of the first tests of whether the romance survives daily life. The climate is mild, maritime, and changeable. It rarely becomes extremely hot or extremely cold compared with many other countries, but it can be gray for long stretches. Wind moves across the flat land without much resistance. Rain can arrive sideways. A morning can begin with sun, turn into drizzle, open again into bright blue, and then close under clouds before evening. For a traveler, this can be cinematic. For a resident, it can be tiring. The beauty of the Netherlands often lives in moisture. Wet streets, mist, canals, green fields, soft skies. But moisture also means damp clothes, cold hands on a bicycle, dark afternoons, and a winter mood that can press on people who come from sunnier places. This is especially true because Dutch life does not stop for imperfect weather. People still cycle to school and work. Parents still load children into cargo bikes. Office workers still ride through drizzle with serious faces and practical coats. The system assumes that weather is not an excuse, only a condition. That attitude is admirable, but it also reveals something about the national character. The Netherlands is not built for dramatic gestures. It is built for continuation. Keep moving, keep planning, keep the water out, keep the appointment, keep the bike moving even when the wind is in your face. Spring is when the country becomes almost unreal. Keukenhof, tulip fields, flowering trees, bright bikes, cafes filling up, and old towns suddenly glowing after months of gray. Summer brings terraces, festivals, beaches, boats, and long evenings, especially in places like Amsterdam, Utrecht, Leiden, Haarlem, and the islands in the north.
Autumn makes the canals darker and more beautiful, with wet leaves, warm windows, and that cinematic rust color that makes Dutch villages feel designed for thumbnails. Winter can be magical when snow falls on brick roofs and bridges, but many winters are more wet than white. That is the honest version. The Netherlands is beautiful in every season, but not always comfortable in every season. Its climate gives the country texture, not perfection. It teaches you that Dutch beauty is rarely tropical, loud, or effortless. It is controlled, reflective, damp, disciplined, and often most powerful when the sky looks heavy. The population of the Netherlands is one of the reasons the country feels so alive and so pressured at the same time. More than 18 million people live in a relatively small area, and the most famous urban zone, the Randstad, connects Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, Utrecht, and many surrounding towns into a dense belt of work, study, politics, transport, and culture.
This is not a country where emptiness dominates the experience. Even when you are in a quiet village, you are often not far from a train station, a highway, a canal, a greenhouse, a business park, or another town. The Dutch have learned to live close together without making closeness feel chaotic. That is one of the country's great achievements. Streets are organized, public space is carefully designed, and everyday behavior is often guided by unwritten rules. Stand in the wrong part of a bike lane, and you will understand immediately that the Netherlands is polite, but not passive. The bicycle is not a cute national symbol. It is a serious transport tool. Children use it, students use it, lawyers use it. Parents use cargo bikes like family vehicles. Elderly people ride with astonishing confidence. In many cities, the rhythm of life is built around two wheels. This gives Dutch streets a human scale that many countries envy. It also creates its own pressure.
You must learn the flow, the signals, the speed, the silent expectations. The Netherlands can be easy for tourists because so many people speak excellent English, but it is not always easy to enter socially. Dutch directness can feel refreshing, even liberating, because people often say what they mean without excessive ceremony. But for newcomers, that same directness can feel cold. Friend groups may be formed early and remain stable. Calendars are planned in advance. Spontaneity exists, but it often has to find a place between work,
family, sport, appointments, and weather. The country is diverse, especially in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, and university cities. You hear many languages on trams and in markets. You see Surinamese food, Indonesian influence, Turkish and Moroccan communities, international students, expats, tech workers, artists, diplomats, and migrant laborers, all sharing the same national space. But diversity does not erase tension. Housing, identity, migration, wages, and belonging are real debates, not background noise. That is why daily life in the Netherlands can feel calm on the surface and intensely negotiated underneath. The Dutch home itself tells part of the story. Large windows, neat interiors, bikes parked outside, plants in the front, small balconies, narrow staircases, compact rooms, clean kitchens, and a sense that private life is carefully arranged. There is beauty in that order. There is also pressure. When space is limited, habits become important. When neighbors are close, rules matter. When rent is high, every room becomes a calculation. The Dutch lifestyle looks simple from the outside, but inside it is built from thousands of small agreements about space, time, noise, money, movement, and personal boundaries. Still, there is a quiet strength in Dutch daily life that becomes addictive once you understand it.
A child cycling alone to school, a commuter reading calmly on a train, a market opening under gray skies, neighbors discussing practical details without drama, a family crossing the city by bike instead of car. These scenes are not spectacular, yet they reveal the country more honestly than a landmark. The Netherlands often feels civilized not because it is flawless, but because ordinary life has been given structure. Moving to the Netherlands is one of those dreams that looks easy until the practical details begin. On paper, the country is extremely attractive. It has strong universities, international companies, a high level of English, good public transport, respected healthcare, safe streets, a powerful passport, beautiful cities, and a lifestyle that seems balanced compared with louder, more chaotic places. For students, skilled workers, creatives, engineers, designers, finance professionals, and tech people, the Netherlands can feel like a serious door into Europe. Amsterdam offers global energy. Rotterdam offers modern ambition. The Hague offers diplomacy and institutions. Utrecht offers central convenience and a warm, old city rhythm. Eindhoven connects to technology and design. Leiden, Delft, Groningen, Maastricht, and Haarlem each offer their own version of Dutch life. But the first wall many newcomers hit is housing. Finding a place to live can become the real entrance exam. Rooms disappear quickly. Apartments are expensive. Viewings can feel competitive. Documents matter. Salaries matter. Contracts matter. In the most wanted areas, people do not simply choose a home. They fight for the chance to be considered. This changes the emotional meaning of moving. The Netherlands may welcome talent, but it does not always have enough space for the talent it attracts. Then comes bureaucracy. It is usually logical, but it can be strict.
Registration, insurance, bank accounts, tax numbers, residence permits, municipal rules, rental contracts, healthcare choices, and appointments all become part of the first months. The system often works, but you have to work with the system. You cannot float through it casually. Healthcare is another adjustment. It is professional and structured, but newcomers can be surprised by the role of the general practitioner, the insurance model, the direct communication style, and the fact that not every concern leads immediately to tests or specialists. Work culture also has its own rules. Dutch offices often value direct feedback, planning, punctuality, and a relatively clear boundary between work and private life. That can feel healthy.
It can also feel blunt if you come from a culture where criticism is wrapped in softer language. Social integration may take longer than expected.
You can live comfortably in English, especially in big cities. But language still matters if you want deeper belonging. Dutch is not impossible, but it requires discipline, and many internationals get trapped in the convenient half-life of English. Functional, comfortable, but slightly outside. Here is the second and final moment I want to ask you directly. If this kind of honest country storytelling is useful, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and write in the comments which city you are watching from. It is always fascinating to see the map of our audience, from Amsterdam to New York, from London to Dubai, from small towns to huge capitals. For anyone thinking about moving, the Netherlands can be a great choice. But it is not a fantasy country where everything becomes simple. It rewards preparation, patience, money, planning, and the ability to adapt to a society that is friendly, efficient, and very serious about its rules. The biggest mistake people make about the Netherlands is thinking that a beautiful country must be an easy country. The Netherlands is beautiful, but it is not soft. The first disadvantage is cost, and especially housing. Even people with good jobs can feel squeezed. A small apartment in a good location can consume a painful share of income. Students may spend months searching for rooms. Young families may leave the city they love because space becomes impossible. First-time buyers can feel as if the market has moved faster than their lives. This is not just an economic detail. It changes the emotional atmosphere of the country. A canal view is beautiful, but the rent behind that window may be brutal. A historic street is charming, but the person serving coffee there may commute from far away because living nearby is unrealistic. The second disadvantage is density. The Netherlands is not only small, it is intensely used. Roads, trains, bike lanes, parks, schools, farms, ports, airports, nature reserves, and housing projects all compete for room. In some countries, you can escape pressure by driving into emptiness. In the Netherlands, even escape is often organized. A beach zone, a nature route, a park, a village, an island, a scheduled train, a designated path. That order can be pleasant, but it can also make life feel managed. The third disadvantage is weather and light. Gray weeks can drain energy. Wind can make simple movement feel like work. Rain is not always dramatic enough to stay inside, but often unpleasant enough to make the day feel heavier. Many people adapt, some never fully do. The fourth disadvantage is social distance. Dutch society is open in many practical ways, but emotional entry can be slower. People may be kind, helpful, and honest, yet still keep a clear line between public friendliness and private closeness. For foreigners, this can create a strange loneliness. Surrounded by English speakers, efficient services, safe streets, and good cafes, but still missing the feeling of being truly inside. The fifth disadvantage is that the rules can feel endless. Recycling rules, rental rules, traffic rules, tax letters, municipal appointments, school systems, healthcare procedures, parking permits, noise norms, housing associations, work contracts. None of this is necessarily bad. Much of it is why the country functions. But the same structure that protects quality of life can also make life feel boxed in. And then there is the deeper Dutch anxiety. Water, land, climate, nitrogen debates, building limits, agriculture pressure, migration pressure, energy transition, and the constant question of how to keep a wealthy, dense, low-lying country livable. These are not dramatic problems visible on every street, but they sit underneath the calm. The Netherlands is not falling apart. It is far too organized for that kind of simple story. The truth is more interesting. It is a successful country under pressure, and that pressure is part of what you feel when you stop looking only at the canals. Over-tourism adds another layer. Amsterdam in particular carries the burden of being too loved. The city that visitors imagine as free, playful, and endlessly available is also a place where residents need sleep, schools, groceries, clean streets, and normal neighborhood life. That tension is visible when a quiet canal becomes a photo background every few seconds, when party tourism spills into narrow streets, or when souvenir shops replace useful local businesses. The Netherlands knows how to welcome the world, but it also knows what the world can do to a small place. Safety in the Netherlands is one of the country's strongest qualities, but it should not be confused with emptiness, silence, or perfection. Dutch cities usually feel safe in the basic everyday sense.
You can walk through central areas, use public transport, cycle at night in many neighborhoods, and move through the country with a level of confidence that many places do not offer. Streets are lit, trains are frequent, emergency systems are reliable, and public order is generally strong. For travelers, this matters. It means you can focus on the city instead of constantly guarding yourself. In Amsterdam, you can move from canals to museums to cafes to quiet side streets with relative ease. In Utrecht, the old center feels intimate and human, with wharf sellers along the canal and students filling the streets. In Haarlem and Leiden, the scale is softer, almost domestic, with churches, courtyards, museums, and water always nearby. The Hague feels more formal, shaped by government, embassies, courts, and the sea at Scheveningen. Rotterdam feels more urban, more raw, more modern, with a different energy from the old postcard Netherlands. But safety also has layers. Amsterdam can be crowded, and crowds bring pickpocketing, scams, drunk tourists, and behavior that locals often resent. The red light district and party zones may be famous, but they are not the whole city, and not always the most pleasant part of it. Bikes are another safety lesson. Dutch cycling infrastructure is excellent, but it is also fast and serious. For a visitor, stepping into a bike lane without looking can be more dangerous than crossing a road. The calm surface hides a choreography that locals understand instinctively. Water safety is the deeper national story. The Netherlands is safe partly because it spends enormous effort staying safe. Dikes, dunes, pumps, barriers, canals, waterboards, planning rules, and constant maintenance protect a country where large areas are vulnerable to flooding. This creates a very Dutch form of safety. Not the absence of danger, but the management of danger. The country trusts systems because it has to. That is also visible in public health, transport, food standards, building rules, and disaster planning. There is a cultural confidence here, a belief that risks can be measured, debated, engineered, and reduced. But modern risks are changing. Sea level rise, heavier rainfall, overloaded infrastructure, cyber dependence, organized crime linked to ports, housing exploitation, and political polarization all complicate the old image of perfect calm. The Netherlands remains one of the easier and safer countries for travelers and residents, but its safety is not passive. It is maintained every day. That is why the Dutch landscape can feel peaceful without being innocent. The quiet canal, the straight road through flat fields, the dunes holding back the North Sea, the village below the level of the water, all of it carries a sentence the country never really forgets. Safety here is something people built, not something nature simply gave.
Getting to the Netherlands is simple compared with understanding it. That is part of the country's power. It is one of Europe's great gateways, and for many travelers, Schiphol Airport is the first image. Glass, signs, trains under the terminal, quick connections, people moving in every direction. From Schiphol, Amsterdam is close,
and the rail network makes the country feel almost compressed. In a short trip, you can move from Amsterdam's canal ring to Haarlem's old streets, from Rotterdam's modern skyline to Delft's blue and white calm, from The Hague's political world to the beach, from Utrecht's central station to one of the most beautiful old centers in the country. This accessibility can create a dangerous illusion. It makes the Netherlands look easy to consume quickly. Arrive, take a canal boat, photograph leaning houses, visit a museum, see tulips if it is spring, take a windmill trip, eat stroopwafels, and leave. That version is pleasant, but shallow.
The better way to approach the Netherlands is to slow down. Choose fewer places and let the country's rhythm appear. In Amsterdam, do not only chase the famous museum list. Walk early, before the crowds, when delivery bikes pass over bridges and the canals are still dark. Notice how the houses seem narrow from the front, but deep in history. In Zaanse Schans, look beyond the perfect green houses and understand that this was also an industrial landscape. At Kinderdijk, arrive when the light is low and the mills feel less like attractions and more like evidence of a national struggle. At Keukenhof, remember that the flowers are not random nature. They are staged with enormous care, planted for a brief season, and connected to a flower industry that knows exactly how to turn color into emotion. Rotterdam deserves special attention because it breaks the cliché. If you only see Amsterdam, you may think the Netherlands is all canals and gables.
Rotterdam shows a country that rebuilds, experiments, trades, and looks forward. Utrecht may be one of the best cities for feeling Dutch daily life without being swallowed by Amsterdam's tourist pressure. Leiden and Haarlem give the old Netherlands in a more intimate tone. Delft carries history with a delicate surface. Maastricht feels different again, more southern, stone-built, and European in another way. The islands and coastal areas reveal wind, dunes, ferries, seals, beaches, and the North Sea mood. Travel inside the Netherlands works best by train, bicycle, tram, and walking. Driving can be useful for some rural routes, but parking and city traffic often make it less romantic than it sounds. The practical advice is simple. Book housing early, respect bike lanes, check weather honestly, do not overpack the itinerary, and leave time for ordinary streets. The Netherlands rewards the traveler who looks sideways. The famous sights are worth seeing, but the country often becomes most beautiful in between them. A wet alley in Haarlem, a quiet bridge in Leiden, a glowing kitchen window in Utrecht, a cyclist crossing a canal at dusk, a field of flowers disappearing under a cloudy sky. The Netherlands is unreal because it is not just naturally beautiful. It is designed, defended, negotiated, and lived with discipline. That is what makes the country so powerful on screen and so complex in real life. A simple travel video can show windmills, canals, tulips, bikes, beaches, museums, and old towns. All of that is true, and all of it deserves attention. Amsterdam really can feel like a city drawn in water and brick. Kinderdijk really does look like a scene from another century. Keukenhof really can overwhelm the eye with color. Utrecht, Haarlem, Delft, Leiden, Rotterdam, The Hague, Maastricht, the coast, the islands, and the villages all add different voices to the same national story. But the deeper Netherlands is not only pretty. It is a country where water must be controlled, space must be calculated, housing must be fought for, weather must be accepted, rules must be respected, and comfort often comes with a high price. That hidden price does not destroy the beauty. It makes the beauty more interesting. It explains why the Netherlands feels so polished, why its streets feel so organized, why its people can seem direct, why its cities are efficient, why its landscapes are never just landscapes. This is a country that learned to survive by refusing chaos. It turned flatness into identity, water into infrastructure, trade into wealth, bikes into daily freedom, and small spaces into some of the most recognizable urban scenes in the world. For a traveler, the Netherlands can be one of the most rewarding countries in Europe because it gives you beauty quickly. Within a few days, you can see canals, museums, windmills, flower fields, modern architecture, old university towns, and the North Sea. But for anyone who wants to understand the country, the real story begins when the postcard opens and the machinery behind it becomes visible. The Netherlands is not a fantasy. It is a successful, crowded, expensive, weathered, disciplined, beautiful country built on limits. And maybe that is why it stays in the mind. Not because it is perfect, but because it proves that a place can be fragile, controlled, pressured, and still look almost impossible. That is also why the best Dutch journey is not only a route between attractions, but a slow adjustment of the eye. At first, you see the surface, the bridge, the bike, the canal, the flowers, the perfect brick facade. Then you begin to notice the engineering, the rent, the wind, the strict timetable, the narrow staircase, the local irritation with over-tourism, the quiet pride in systems that actually work. The Netherlands becomes more beautiful when you stop treating it as a fairy tale and start seeing the effort behind it.